Welcome back to the FiveStack. We had a little layoff. Hi, Beverly, Vince, Shirley, Jaylyn, Natasha, Jessica, Miri. Oh my God, everybody's piling in now. Tens of
Wow.
we're up almost 100. Like, this is unbelievable. Hi,
Yeah.
Valerie. Hi, Heidi. Hi, all. Welcome to our special Canada Day edition, FiveStack Self-Sovereignty. Great to see you as well. That is my friend Zev Shalev, fresh off an amazing weekend where you got to take an extra couple days off. You phone me and you're like, in your trademark South African accent,
South
do you
African.
mind if South African? Do you mind if we take a knee for the next few days? I've got some things on the go. So here we are on a Tuesday, and you get an extra long weekend. You didn't have your Thursday, I didn't have your Friday, and I miss you, my friend. How are you?
I'm terrific. Happy Canada Day to you. And it's
Mhm.
here I am working on Canada Day because I did take a couple of days off, and I'm great. I had a great weekend. It was Pride in Toronto. Pride in Toronto is a very big thing, and it has been a big thing in my life for many, many, many years. So because I was really one of the first people in the initial invention of Pride in Toronto way back when. And I've been going every year. It's a great way to meet my friends and see what people have been doing, have a good time, dance around a little bit, celebrate the original meaning of Pride, which is about, equality and, fighting ostracization by society and allowing gay men and others to be equal to everybody and have the same rights. So I still am a believer in all of that, even though it's kind of out of vogue in many parts of the world, certainly in the United States. It's still a very big deal in Toronto, where there were, I don't know, millions of people out. I can believe the street. It was really hard to get through. And I didn't even know there's many people live in this city, but there they were, showing up. They do every year for Pride. It's become quite a big event in Toronto.
So how do you celebrate? You've been doing this for 30 years, and if you're not from Toronto, you don't understand that Pride Week, Pride Month, Pride Parade, the Pride Weekend, the Dyke March, the actual Pride Parade itself, they're interwoven in the fabric of this city, much like Caravana is, much like the Santa Claus Parade is. But it's an entire month. How has that changed over the last 30 years? And I'm glad we get to have this conversation. I also I want to know how you celebrate Pride. And
Yeah.
then I want to tell you my story about how I celebrated Pride
Oh,
this
I'm dying
weekend.
to hear that.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
celebrated Pride. Oh, that's interesting.
Always,
Um,
every year, dude. Every year.
That's good. Well, it's changed a lot. I mean, 30 years ago, it was a tiny little block party, we covered maybe one block of the city and basically in a parking lot in between two gay bars. And it's grown a lot. And partly that's because the city really embraced gay rights. And I was actually part of a committee. It was Mayor, was it Lastman? I think it was not Lastman. Maybe it was Miller. Anyhow, I was part of a mayoral committee at the time in my previous role as an executive producer of television in Canada, and we were trying to find ways of making Toronto an international city. And one of the things that I proposed was that we actually embrace those things, that we embrace Carabana and embrace gay pride because it was good for the economy. It brought a lot of people into the economy, but it also is great for the brand of the city. It brings in a lot of creative talent. It brings in a lot of, diversity, and it makes Canada and especially Toronto stand out in the world when it's got this kind of forward-leaning, liberal sort of point of view on these things. So I've been a supporter of Pride for many reasons for a long time. Partly because it helps the city, partly because it helps gay people, and it's fun. You ask what I do. I go and dance a lot. There are massive, massive all-night parties that happen.
Dancing? Do you go to EDM
Yes,
places?
house music.
House music?
I like house
That's a
music.
shame. That's a shame. That's the worst part about you is that you love EDM and house music.
I love it in the context of a nightclub. I love it, not necessarily every day, but there's some nightclubs in Toronto, like Rebel nightclub, which is a massive, very credible event space, and it's packed to the rafters with gay guys on 3 nights of a row, and it's always a good time. History nightclub's another one that they have, another really good nightclub. So I'm really impressed by Toronto's evolution as a nightclub venue and also as a host of Pride Parade. I know the organizers, Gary Brown, who's been a organizer of Pride's big parties, the prison parties, for 30 years. Literally, we were friends for that long, and he's done an amazing job turning this event from smaller clubby events into this internationally well known now event, and it brings in a lot of people, all with the right values to celebrate a great day. I'm going to say something controversial. Although I want to hear about your pride. Tell me about your pride,
No,
and then
no,
I'll say
no,
something.
no, no. we can get to the, yeah, I'll tell you about the
Okay.
controversy that I had this weekend. So my partner went and decided to do the Pride Run. Works in a space where she's got a bunch of people that work with her and for her that are LGBTQ. So she went as a good employer, as she went and decided that she was going to go and do this run. And what struck me about this run, and listen, this is something that I've done every year in some capacity. I'll go and support Pride festivities, support the LGBTQ community, support some of my gay friends, you being one of them. I think it's really important to lend that straight white privilege to organizations and groups who have been marginalized in the past. I think that's one of the great gifts we straight white cisgender men can give to other people. It's how can we show you not only that we love you and we're supportive of you, but you're just human beings, and you might like redheads, I might like blondes, you might like guys, I might like girls. I mean, that's how I look at the LGBT community, and the struggle was and it still is very real. But the only wrinkle in this is, oh, the penises. Zev, I saw a lot of penises at the run. Guys running with their dicks out, their nuts hanging out, and they're doing this and they're celebrating. And I'm like, hey, good for you. But it seems like we really suspend decency laws like
Yeah,
for
it's
one
not
weekend in a month.
necessary.
And I'm like, guys, this is great, but do you really have to cut a hole in the front of that lingerie and show your wieners? That's
Every guy I think is very proud of their penis. That's it's built into our DNA.
some
Some
are
aren't, but a lot of
guys like
people
us are
are.
lucky, so we're
Yeah,
proud of ours.
but
But guys who are unlucky, not so
yeah,
much.
everyone would potentially like to show it off to the world all the time, but that's not what we do in society. We have rules in society, and it's not necessary. I think especially the Pride Parade. It's sort of designed not really for gay people. It's designed for straight people to come and watch. So you've got these kids that are there. They don't need to see that. They don't need to see that stuff. Keep it in a better way.
Sodom and Gomorrah was trending on Twitter after the Pride Parade this last week.
Well, I mean, I have to. This is where I get a little. I differentiate from everybody else on the LGBTQAI plus whatever movement. Uh, I don't think that that's all a good thing. That there is one unified movement for all these different letters of the alphabet, none of which most people can even identify. I can't tell you what they all stand for. And it's not that I don't have a huge respect for everyone's identity and want everyone to be able to fight for their own identity, but I do think that gay men in particular have had a different sort of uh, course and a different sort of history that they're still trying to deal with. And we had still have the AIDS crisis that has been around for so long. Certainly is a lot better now. People aren't dying as much as they were, but I mean, the gay pride movement came out of the AIDS crisis. It came out of the fact that thousands, million people were dying because of this incurable disease. It was traumatic in a way that most people can't even remember. It was everyone was dying, and certainly growing up as a gay kid, the thing that worried me was, well, if I'm gay, I'm going to be I'm going to dead. This is like an equation of that's what it meant. You're going to be die basically.
Yeah, that was
And
the propaganda, right?
yeah,
But it was
well, it's
also
propaganda, but it was also true
right.
because at the time they didn't know what it was, and just gay men were dying. So for me, there's always that changed everything for gay men, and I just think gay men have their own issues and their own community and their own identity and things that they're struggling with that they don't always share with everybody else in that LGBTQIA community. And I like the gay movement the way it was before because it was a gay movement. It was for gay guys, and it was simpler and easier for me. And certainly there's room for every movement of every stripe in the rainbow. But do they all have to be unified all the time, or can they still be part of the community that cares about that particular community? There's a lot of gay men in the world, a lot, and there's a lot of issues that come with being gay, whether it's discrimination or HIV and AIDS or other diseases or drug abuse or you name it. There's a whole lot of issues that need to be dealt with, and just the probably the biggest part of that whole movement is the gay movement, but it's often seconded to these other things, which I think are also important, but also they don't always have to be as important or as equally supported by everybody in the same way. I have issues with the trans movement a lot. Like a lot of people have issues with the trans movement, not because of the movement itself. I believe in absolute equality, But I don't believe that, kids necessarily at a young age need to be exposed to making those decisions about their sexual identity for the rest of their lives any more than I did. And that's not a very liberal point of view. I know that it's more conservative, but it's just how I feel. Now, there is lots of cases within that where where there is a case for that, where there's a lot of, not a lot, there's a few people who really do feel, hey, my identity is either I'm going to die or I've got to be a change my identity. There are few, very few people like that, and they deserve special treatment and they deserve all the health care that they can have. But does it have to be sort of this like trendy thing? Does it have to have all these pronouns things? I don't. I'm not a big fan. I'm sorry. I know that's probably offensive to a lot of people,
No,
but
no. Listen, this is a hot topic. I
yeah,
mean, it has been for the past like 7, 8, 10 years, where the MAGAverse has tried to convince the world that unless you're a straight white individual or a straight person, there's something wrong with you. It's a mental illness. You've got the parental rights bullshit. You've got book burnings. You've got what do they call conversion therapy? Hot topics, right? But you're in the community, like you're a community leader, and these are valid thoughts, and I don't disagree with really any of them, other than the fact that that none of this has anything to do with me. And so, where do you put your support as a straight white man? And I put my support with individual freedoms of people. And when we're talking about the trans thing, and let's just get into it, that has been weaponized to the point where everybody is now fitting into some kind of box when it comes to their understanding of how human sexuality works, right? And you can't. Everybody is different. There's nuanced perceptions that you have to have when you're talking about someone's sexuality, their identity, their ideologies, all those different things. And there's nothing wrong with anything that you just said. And for anybody, and I know the trans community, you just have to kind of read about J.K. Rowling's fight
yeah,
to understand, how intense the certain aspects of the trans community are, or you have to read my story about getting fired for mocking a gay rapist because people called me homophobic.
yeah. I remember that.
But there's a militant arm to every group, right, that misrepresents the whole, and unfortunately that exists in the LGBTQ community as well. Well, and it's really nice to hear you talk about it because it's not something we ever talk about. We get right to the news of the day, which we're
Yeah,
going to get to in just a second. This is just a nice little quick catch up, talking about pride, talking about marginalization, and talking about the reality of people's perceptions and their opinions around, the LGBTQ trans movement and all the different groups that get lumped in, almost like that flag represents the marginalized, where, people like you want to go back to a time where you separate those marginalized groups. And I think that that's a very fucking valid point because the MAGAverse, conservatism, the Christian lobby, the religious lobby has gone out of their way to widen that brush that they paint everybody in the community with. And that's sort of the damage that's been done by, the acronym extension, the pronouns, because I don't listen. Even in the pronoun conversation. And again, this is not something that you and I have discussed privately. So I'm glad we're doing this in front of several hundred people to start the day. But I don't give a shit what you want to be called. I don't care
yeah,
if you want to be called he, him, her, me, they, my, Bob, Bill, Angie. I don't give a shit. I'll call you whatever you want to call. And I'm definitely not the guy that's going to go all the way to say, me having to search for words and figure out a way to talk to you without asking you is an affront on my personal freedoms. Those guys are pussies. Like those
yeah.
people are
I
losers.
Yes, but also they and he and him all mean certain things in English, and they have for the longest time. And trying to figure out the pronoun, and then when you get to that point in the sentence, is just confusing, and you're not quite sure what you're referring to, and nor does anybody else. And I think people can identify any way they want. I don't think it needs to affect your pronouns, but that's sort of like a semantic thing
No, but like
about.
people take it as an affront. Like
But
my
it's not an
pronouns are
affront.
this. It's
That's
like
it's
you're
just
such
a.
a loser if you're fucking triggered by any of that.
These are people
Holy
that I
fuck
just,
that.
they're making an issue out of something that they just want to get noticed by. They want to be able to like be offended by something, but the reason Pride started and the reason I'm a big supporter of it is, I lost 2 jobs in my life because I'm gay. I got fired literally because I'm gay. That's the only reason. And so I understand what it's like to be discriminated against. That I understand what it's like when you're a contributing member of society. You're in a business with other very talented people, but you're contributing as much as they are, and then you find yourself, out of work because you're gay.
Because
And
of who you are.
yeah, that's
Not
not.
no other
Yeah,
reason. Like there's no merit to it. And you've lived that life.
yeah,
You
and
know,
so it's
you've
important
experienced that shame.
that
Yes, of
that we
course.
protect that they protect the movement that protects that, because if there's no one speaking out for gay rights, for gay men in particular, then we're not going to, that we'll go back to that point. And your point is brilliant about this. What the conservative movement has done, he's taken this broad brush now because they're opposed to a segment of the trans agenda. They have now tarnished the entire gay movement, which for hundreds of years, but really the last 30 years, has done exceptional work in taking this marginalized, discriminated community, and I'm talking about the gay community, and made it much more acceptable in society to a large extent, to very good effect. I think gay men contribute a lot to society. They are very helpful to the economy. They function as good parents, as it turns out. Many of them turn out to be good parents. There's a lot of good things that gay men have been able to show the world in the last 30 years. And I think that there's still a lot of discrimination, particularly now because of this confusion. And I don't want to lose all of that. I don't want to lose the progress we've made and the ability to contribute to society that we've been able to do. And because when you marginalize people, it comes along with a lot of other issues. It comes along with being marginalized. Literally, will bring you drug use, will bring you economic despair, would give you a whole lot of things. And no one wants that for any community. So
Trauma. You're talking
yeah,
about trauma,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Marginalization produces traumatic experiences.
Yeah,
Traumatic experiences turn into PTSD. PTSD, and I've lived it. So,
yeah.
friends, I talk about it from an honest perspective. PTSD produces nothing other than fear, and so I stand with all of my gay friends, lesbian friends, all of my non-binary friends, but more importantly, because of my attachment to you and my friendship with you. Brother, I stood with you this weekend, and I will continue to do so until the very last day on this earth. Is gay rights are human rights, and so really, really proud on this Canada Day to know that Canada leads the free world when it comes to accepting, loving, supporting, promoting all rights for all individuals, regardless of where you're from, because that's my Canada, and you are my friend, and I'm grateful for that.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you, Dean. That really is amazing. And also, what you were saying there about Canada leading the free world again, so true about gay rights. It always has been a leader in this, but now that America is sort of not really doing that anymore, it's great that Canada can lead the free world in these important issues.
I think Canada's Pride Week and month has been maybe one of the most important ever because
Mhm.
of what we're watching happen in the United States, because what we're watching happen around the world, where the marginalization of these people, these beautiful people who just want to live their lives confidently and happily. And I saw that in Toronto. I said that to my partner the other day. We were having at a patio, having a bite to eat, and it's Pride Month. It's like a Saturday. It's like not this Saturday, Saturday before, and you had gay men and women confidently strutting around this city with no fear. And I looked at her and I'm like, my God, I love the fact that I get to live here and watch people who were afraid to be themselves, not only happily be themselves, but show everybody who they really are. Now, that came with some hot booty shorts and some balls. However, it really it also came with some booters. So I like, as basic as that sounds, because I'm a straight white dude, I'm like, this is not something you get to see every day. And I'm 52, so I don't have a problem with a little bit of nudity. But the problem is that, people will paint that community with the biggest, worst possible brush. And I couldn't be more proud to be from a country that breaks that down and gives people an opportunity to be themselves, to be loved, to be encouraged, to be supported in every way, shape, or form. So I love you,
Yeah.
Canada. Thank you for that.
Toronto Pride this year was like an international global event. And I got to say, I met so many people from around the world. And I used to meet people from around the world that used to come here. But a lot of Americans came to Toronto Pride this year. They didn't go to New York. They didn't go anywhere else because they know that Canada's a place that's cool with gays. And the same thing for people from Europe. I mean, this is now a destination for liberal people who actually believe in democracies, and it always has been, but it was always second place to the United States. And I don't think people view the United States in the same way anymore, which is a tragedy. But we should probably get into the five stack.
Let's get into the five stack. That was your bonus quick LGBTQ chat, everybody. Zev, what do you have for us today, my friend?
All right. At number 5, President Trump visited the newly opened Alligator Alcatraz detention facility in the Florida Everglades today, a 5,000 capacity center surrounded by swampland and natural predators. Trump joked about teaching detainees how to run away from an alligator if they escape prison.
You
While
gotta
pra-
weave. He's like, you
yeah.
gotta weave. You can't do it in a straight line. He was doing one of these.
While praising the facility as a model for future detention centers across America. This reminds me of that. Do you remember the movie Sharknado, where they took like
Yeah, yeah.
sharks and
Put it in
tornadoes and put it into one?
tornado. Yeah.
This is what it feels like to me. They're taking these two things that are really scary, put them together, and said, "Yeah, it's going to work. This will stop illegal immigrants from coming here." It's what it's basically that's the concept. I think. I don't know what they're going to try next.
Did you see Ron DeSantis do a tour
Yeah,
of Alligator Alcatraz? It was the
yeah.
funniest shit I've ever seen. He took a Fox News morning show host with him down to Alligator Alcatraz, and 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 as awful and sad as it is, because listen, we're talking about a Floridian concentration
Mm,
camp for migrants and enemies of the state. The state meaning Donald Trump, MAGA, anybody that the Trump regime says they don't like. They're too brown, they're too Mexican, they're too this, they're too that, they're too Canadian. 55 Canadians are actually in detention in there. I don't know if we'll get to that today, but whatever. And Ron DeSantis was like a fucking peacock running around going, this is where we're going to force all of the people we're putting in this concentration camp to sleep. This is where they're all going to go potty. And the Fox host was like, where did you get all these bathrooms? And he's like, oh, we've got access to all these bathrooms. And we just used a different fund, like emergency services fund.
yeah.
So they used emergency funds to build this alligator Alcatraz in the middle of the Florida swamp that were meant for the people of North Carolina to dig out from that fucking hurricane last year. And they said no to that, but they said yes to building an entire fucking city dedicated to abusing, hurting, detaining, deporting, and possibly murdering people the Trump regime doesn't like. It is the fucking sickest. And then watching Trump this morning, by the way, he threatened to deport Elon Musk. I'm sure we'll get to that
Yeah,
at some point.
we are.
But watching him, after he threatened to deport Elon Musk, talk about how excited he was to go down and check this facility out that's going to ruin people's lives, that is going to end the lives of people legally in the United States of America with no due process. He's like, this is great. He's like, you remember back in the day where I was like, maybe we should create a moat around America and fill it with alligators around the border and snakes so that they kill and eat all the immigrants trying to come into our country. A reporter asked him about that today, and he's like, I was joking about it at the time, but I'm warming up to the idea. It's actually a great idea, and that's what I love about Alligator Alcatraz. So more craziness, more bullshit. I just, it's quite the day. Quite the
It is,
day again.
it is, you say it might ruin their lives and might cause death. It does cause death. We've seen it. And it's caused, there was a Canadian that was imprisoned, illegally the other day who died in their custody. And it continues to be an issue that they have no access to the right healthcare facilities. I mean, they're spending all this money on toilets and cots and things, but have they spent any money on healthcare? Have they spent any money on legal processes? Are there any lawyers that these people can talk to about how they can end their detention, which is often completely illegal? I mean,
Zero.
and as we've kept saying, this is not about illegal immigrants. This is about whoever they view as an enemy of them. Not now, perhaps, but it's exactly where it's going to go. I mean, this is, they'll find a way to categorize people because they now have this database of every American citizen. They'll
Yeah.
categorize citizens as being, worthy of staying free and others that should be detained because of their liberal points of view or because, I don't know, they woke up feeling a certain way about a certain kind of people. Maybe it's the color of their eyes or maybe it's because they're gay. I don't know. They could throw anybody in those detention camps. And the thing is, there's no due process. It's run by this, ICE, which is sort of an external to the normal justice system. It doesn't follow the same rules. Anybody can be an ICE agent, basically. They can hire you in a day and you become an ICE agent, it seems. So what they're building and what Americans are allowing and celebrating on TV, because it doesn't look like they're even critical of this thing, is a concentration camp that's a death camp, basically. It's just
Yeah, and listen, it's entirely dedicated to sending people of color to a concentration camp. It is entirely dedicated to rooting out Mexicans, Venezuelans, El Salvadorians, people from Somalia, people who are just not white Christian individuals,
mhm.
to grab them and force them into this concentration camp and to kill them. You're talking about a Canadian that happened to the other day. Let's get to what these ICE detention facilities, and then let's tie in the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship, and then let's tie in the big beautiful bill, which looks like it's going to pass today, and the appropriation of $50 billion to create a permanent police state with ICE Gestapo. Let's
Okay, that
start
is our
there.
number one story, though. You might be bleeding into that, but that's okay.
We
We
will.
can,
We're going to
yeah.
tie it in at number
Okay,
one, but
okay.
all of these things come together so that Donald Trump can legitimately and permanently turn America into his personal fiefdom,
Mhm.
turn ICE agents into his personal security service and secret police, and to fund the long term final solution, if you will. And I say that with great respect.
Mhm.
Final solution for groups of people that Trump regime doesn't deem to be American enough.
Mhm.
That's the whole point. That is why we're here. That's what we're talking about. The big beautiful bill just passed,
Oh yeah,
and
just
we're gonna get to
yeah.
different aspects of that later on today. But the self dealing, the wheeling and dealing is all for one purpose. It's for the enrichment of the Trump regime and all of his friends, and for the creation of a permanent police state. Steve Schmidt the other day with Ryan Lizzett called this the police state bill, the Secret Service police state bill, and the entire point and the end result is what they're building in Florida and around the United States of America, which are death camps for people the Trump regime doesn't deem to be American enough. That's the
Yeah,
truth.
you're right, because they spend all this money making American white people fear everybody else. That's what the whole point has been. There's been the world is coming to get you. You know that you're.
Gay men,
Yeah,
trans people, Mexicans, El Salvadorians, anybody who's in the country that is not white, Christian, straight, rich.
yeah, and then they're going to go after those people because that's the conclusion of the narrative. The conclusion is, hey, everybody, you're scared. You should be scared of these guys. They're coming for you, and then they're going to go and get those people that are coming for you, and it's going to seem okay for
Mhm.
those people. But America is basically becoming the worst possible version of itself. I mean, there could not be any more dire a set of circumstances than what we're seeing now. And Steve and Ryan's comments there are absolutely right. This is a Gestapo situation. This is a police state situation, and it's horrific. It's just. What more can you say that about just the horrifying nature of this thing? And we could talk. Should we do the BBB now? I mean, we can do that now, or we can
Sure.
do.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. We can.
Okay, so has it passed? I haven't got the full. I just saw that someone say it passed, but I am looking at the. I'm not seeing it being passed yet. Let's double check. Let's have a little.
I'm going to go on Twitter. Usually, unfortunately, I fucking hate going on Twitter, but I'm going to go on Twitter and check because that's traditionally where, you're going to get that first. The big, beautiful bill passed. Is it passed? Has it passed, ladies and gentlemen? Is America, Lisa Murkowski, cast the deciding vote to pass the big, beautiful bill in the States? Lisa Murkowski, she is in trouble. Yes, it has
Narrowly
passed.
passed, yeah, following an intense marathon. It says here the final tally was 50-50, with VP JD Vance casting the tie-breaking vote in favor of the bill. Wow, well, there you go. I mean, this is horrendous. I
Yep.
predicted this was going to happen, by the way. Remember last time we saw each other, I said this was going to pass because Trump needs it to pass. But it is, this is a bunch of sellouts. Um, so all Democrats and 3 Republicans, basically, Susan Collins, Rand Paul, and Tom Tillis, voted against the bill, citing concerns over the deficit, Medicaid cuts, and the bill's overall size. But everybody else is in favor of extending President Trump's 2017 tax cuts, introducing a no tax on tips provision, overhauling social safety net programs, including significant cuts to Medicaid and SNAP, and providing major new spending for border security and the military. That's the police state thing you're talking about. It also raises the federal debt ceiling by $5 trillion. an unbelievable amount at a time when America sorely does not need that. It is unbelievable this is happening. I mean, the original bill was saying it was $3.3 trillion over the next decade, but now it's saying $5 trillion. That is unbelievably poor management of the economy, and all to give rich people and entitled people a tax break.
Yeah, he's got 17 million. The numbers are pretty staggering. 17 million Americans are going to lose their health care. Obamacare, Medicaid. Something in the neighborhood of 60 million Americans are going to lose access to the SNAP program, which provides, it's a food program that provides food stamps to people. So not only are those people going to go hungry and die, those grocery stores that took part in that program are also going to lose out tremendously. So you're looking at a major financial loss for grocers, specifically in have states or have not states. You are going to see ICE agents be given the permanent ability to come to your house, beat the shit out of you, and walk away scot-free. You're going to see a major uptick in the disappearing or kidnapping of Americans or immigrants to America or tourists to America. One Canadian official said it best the other day. He's like, listen, if you've got people in the United States from Canada, um, time to maybe tell them to get home. Time to maybe tell them this big, beautiful bill also included a provision, which I believe has since been pulled out, where they were going to come after Canadian pensioners. They were going to come after Canadian investors, anybody who had any money in the American system, to tax every dollar that they make from doing business in the United States of America. So, there's a Canadian aspect to this too that, like I just mentioned, with the digital services tax, which Mark Carney blinked at the other day, which wasn't a proud moment for Canada optically. But, back to America, what a sad day for Americans today, knowing that, the richest people in that country just got a massive tax cut. And the wealth transfer is officially on from the poorest of the middle class to the richest, the top 2% in the United States of America. I was watching clips from the Bezos wedding the other day. What a fucking disgusting, and I thought about it because we talked about the Bezos wedding. All those people that were at the Bezos wedding, they will all benefit from this tax cut.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Broligarchy will benefit
Yeah.
from this tax cut. And I was so disgusted by how tone deaf it was in a time when Americans are about to lose basic, fundamental freedoms, healthcare, access to nutrition, their homes, and their lives, which is incredibly fucking intentional. And I was disgusted, but I was also, sort of roundly and soundly convicted that this is the new face of America, right? It is the extreme of the extreme in every way, shape, or form. This police state is meant to protect all of those people and their wealth from literally everybody else. And America just got fucked again.
And the reason they don't care, and that's a very brilliant summary what you just shared, but the reason they don't care about the fact that they're taking Medicaid and Medicare away from people that really need it is because they actually don't intend to have free and fair elections in the future. This is sort of the wealth transfer you're describing is the biggest wealth transfer ever from poor people to rich people, because that's the goal. The goal is to create a oligarchy, an aristocracy, call it what you will, at the top tier under Donald Trump to enable that man to continue his leadership and to enable the oligarchs to continue ruling the country with their crypto feudalism. And everybody else doesn't matter anymore. Really, they don't care about you at all. They're not going to give you any services because they don't care what you think. The elections, I think, are going to be fixed from now on. And so what we've got is a situation where the average person has no wealth, is basically doomed to a life that almost feels like feudalism, like the Hunger Games, like that kind of environment where you're sort of beholden to masters who who will either find you valuable for your data or for whatever work you can do, but they won't enable your life in any way. They won't allow you to succeed in any way. They won't promote your abilities or anything like that. It'll just be you serve them. You become subject to the oligarchy. And as depressing as that is, why else would any politician pass the worst bill ever? I mean, this bill has no redeeming qualities to it, and yet they passed it all in one go. They only do that because they don't feel like their political futures are threatened. They feel like this is just the way it's going to be, and it's the way that they want to design the future of America. And it doesn't matter what everyone else says because it really won't matter.
No, and the run up to the Trump regime taking over, and this bill coming, and the police state coming, and the authoritarian fascist regime of Donald Trump and his broligarchy and the oligarchy. The run up to this, and this is kind of the sad part, is the sales job that he did on the average American, to be allowed to be in power so that he could enact this tyrannical agenda on the beautiful people of the United States of America. He ran on making them healthier, making them happier, making things cheaper, making things more affordable. None of those things have happened. In fact, the opposite has happened. You cannot afford gas, you cannot afford eggs, you cannot afford groceries. And now anybody who could or could barely do so that needed government assistance, not only are they not allowed to access those basic fundamental human rights, these are human rights, food, water, shelter, these are
Mm.
fucking human rights, access to healthcare, human fucking rights. He's now reaching in your pocket while he's destroying your basic human rights. He's stealing from you, giving it to his friends while stealing your basic human rights.
Yeah.
And 2026 cannot come soon enough for so many people in that beautiful country. And that is now your only hope because
Yeah,
you're
it is a
lost
hope, but
again.
I don't know about the next elections. I am, the more I dig into everything we're learning about what happened in 24 and the election rigging that exists now with Starlink and Palantir and the electronic voting machines, I'm not sure that we can count on elections anymore. I mean, it's good. We should definitely try. If everything goes according to plan, Democrats should sweep the 26 elections. But I'm not sure that they will, and that will, we'll see what happens. I just want to point out as well, the dollar has, by the way, posted its worst first half performance since 1973. It's down 10%. Now, we've been saying that this is part of the plan. The part of the plan is to make America's economy so weak that the dollar no longer is the safe harbor for the world. And it's, in fact, that's exactly what is happening. I think it's around 50% now. So it's almost about to slip into the low 50% mark of being used as the safe harbor for the world's economies. This is, it's clear this is what they're doing. They're disenfranchising people. They're taking away their currency. They intend to crash the dollar by through this inflationary pressure that's going to come and this tariff pressure that's going to come. It might seem like prices are going down in some ways because of the weak dollar, but in reality, what we're going to see is people are going to suffer dramatically, and become servants, to the crypto class, to the people who have crypto, because crypto is going to become the safe haven, which sounds ridiculous for something that is a scam, but that's the plan.
Mm. Yeah, it's always been the plan. All of these things touch each other at some capacity. It's like a jigsaw puzzle of hate and tyranny, and that is coming together. That puzzle is coming together a lot faster than I thought it would. I never thought this bill would pass. I think I said that on the show the other day. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's got like a 25% approval rating with the public. It has, Republican senators. And by the way, just found out Lisa Murkowski was bribed with certain programs, certain Republicans. They were allowed to, keep SNAP in their states where they basically got rid of SNAP in blue states.
Yeah.
And
Costing
so,
those states access to a lot of revenue. I mean, that's the
they
problem.
were literally, they got this done literally by hurting blue states and leaving red states out of that mix, which is really, really fucking greasy. This is a very, very sad day for the United States of America, yet again, under the Trump regime's watchful, tyrannical thumb.
Let's move on to the other stories in the day because we've got only a few minutes left here. So let's talk about Canada because Prime Minister Mark Carney's government completely rescinded the digital services tax after Trump's economic threats, giving up a $7.2 billion amount of revenue. Meanwhile, the US dollar, I told you just now, has dropped 10% in the first half of this year. But you've got a good take at deanblundell.substack.com all about the the Carney decision. You call it, well, you tell me what you call it, but it wasn't very positive.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Optically unfortunate. I think, just to kind of give everybody's the Coles notes, Canada a couple of years ago, I think back in 2022, they enacted this policy called the DST, Digital Services Taxes, because what everybody understands about big tech is that they've reached into countries, destroyed the media advertising ecosystem, and have not paid any taxes whatsoever, meanwhile reaping billions and billions and billions of dollars. So Canada put a tax, 3% tax on some of these big tech companies called the digital services tax. It was retroactive on the 30th, which is yesterday. We were supposed to start collecting $2 billion. $2.2 billion from the United States of America. It was retroactive. This is 2 years old. Trump magically the other day, it's like, I just found out Canada's trying to fucking pull a fast one. Like, well, clearly you haven't read anything about the trade relationship and the policies when it comes to financials between both of these countries. And he not only stopped all trade negotiations between Canada and the United States, which is bullshit in itself, because we weren't really negotiating with them. We were just trying to open doors, and they were trying to open doors, beg us for some raw materials, because that's where this relationship is going as well, much like it did with Ukraine, much like it is going that direction with China as well. Resource-rich countries, they get more attention because that's what the United States of America truly fucking needs, or they're done. So, what happened is we firmly said we were still going to do this after Donald Trump threatened to pull all trade negotiations, which he did, and tariff the shit out of Canada a little extra. Marc-Philippe Champagne, who's the minister in charge of whatever, said, "No, we're doing it. We're still doing it." He's a trade minister. We're still doing it. Fuck that. Donald Trump doesn't get to dictate policy in Canada. 24 hours later, Mark Carney said, "Yeah, we're going to rescind that." And I thought, what a weak moment after all the work Canada did to stand up to this prick. We're giving him a win, a public win. Now, yes, we did. That's exactly what happened. And I'll call balls and strikes. I love Mark Carney. I do not like the Liberal Party. I do not like the Conservative Party. I do not like political parties. They are businesses that are in the business of fucking you and me over. But Mark Carney is a dyed-in-the-wool stoic. He's philosophically sound. He's a good man with good character. So I voted for Mark Carney. And I do believe Mark Carney still has a plan. And what Mark Carney did after he canceled this DST, he said, "Hey, listen, this is going to be part of a broader package that we're working on. We can't institute a 2-year-old policy ahead of a negotiation that should include this policy, because what if we have to change it or rescind it again?" So to me, what that said was, we're going to take this loss, and he took it well. I did not like it optically. I think it made us look weak, but he said, we're going to take this loss and we're going to roll this into a different agreement. So it's not like the digital services tax isn't on the docket. It very, very much is, because we cannot have big tech continue to do the things that have happened to us over the past 20 years, melting brains, destroying the sovereignty of countries, feeding that straight pipe of negativity and disinformation into Canada. And that's what Mark Carney said when he won the election, when he ran to be the next prime minister, is that this was a very important aspect to him giving Canada our national security and our sovereignty back. So I hope that that's still in the offing. We just look like we handed Trump a big fat win, though, and that sucked. I could not deal with that in an appropriate way. So I had to carve him on Substack. You can go and read all about it, because we looked really, really weak after we spent an enormous amount of capital, reputational capital, standing up to this prick. It was kind of a shitty day.
Yeah, I mean, your article is great, and it made me feel the same way you did in the article. But I will say, we can be grown-ups about this too, and say, okay, Trump, here's your win. You guys crow a little bit. At the end of the day, we're still gonna negotiate a deal with him, and this will be part of it. So I do see Carney's point, and I think that taking a strategic loss here is not the end of the world, as long as we,
No.
at the end of the day, continue our upholding our values. It doesn't affect our values.
No, it doesn't. And Carney put out a really nice Canada Day message, which basically was kind of like a backhanded slap to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And so it's not that he's taken his foot off the gas, but sometimes you got to eat shit. right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with somebody like this, because you've got your eye on a bigger prize.
Yeah.
And from my conversations with people in Carney's orbit after I wrote that story, I had a conversation with someone. They're like, "Hey, there's more at play here," and I do trust Mark Carney that he's got all the pieces on the board, while people like us are just sitting back going, "Oh man, we
Yeah.
look too weak." He's like, "Yeah, just wait, just wait." So
It's a
a
long
wait and
game.
see approach. Yeah,
It's a long
absolutely.
game. So that is actually the counter because that is the five stories. Well, I can't tell you which was the five, but I'll figure it out after the show. But we should end the show just by saying that now it's up to the House, which has now started deliberating the mega bill that was passed, the big beautiful bill. The Senate passed it. Now it's gone back to the House. The committee, I think it's the House Rules Committee, has begun debating how they're going to do that. There is another chance here for that bill to be defeated if the majority of the House says no, and they can't say no. So this is not over yet, and we'll see what happens in the next few days. I suspect it will pass because I think Donald Trump wants it passed, and he wants it passed by July 4th. So I think it's going to happen, but there's still more fights to go in terms of that. But no, it's a pretty horrific day in America that this bill has passed, as it is in Canada, where they had to give up the $7.2 billion DST, and it's all because of Donald Trump.
Yeah, we're all reacting to it. And listen, I know my audio isn't great today because I didn't have the foresight to plug my phone in, so I can't use my really nice Shure microphone. So I'm on these AirPods, and I apologize when people have mentioned it. But before
I
we end,
understand.
I do want to say something. No, no worries. Um, is watching what is going on to the south of us, knowing today is Canada Day, knowing how much I love this country. Um, I'm reminded of the difference between decency and tyranny in ways that I have not thought about them before. Canadians in Canada are very, very, very fortunate, very, very lucky. We're lucky that we are above that meth house known as Trump's America. We're lucky that we have really strong, principled character leadership leading this country. We're very fortunate. We have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms that relies on reasonable limitations when it comes to those freedoms. We're very fortunate today to continue to hold Canadian values up as real human values. This country, and I get emotional talking about it. I've never been more patriotic in my life because of what I'm seeing happen to the beautiful people that live in the United States of America. This country will not abandon that democratic fight for our American friends. This country will not abandon its values because some wannabe fucking reality television star tells us to. This country is as secular as it has ever been. This country is charting a course to not only lead the free world, but to turn Canada into a military and economic superpower. And over the next several years, you're going to see a very different Canada. And I believe over the next several years, you're going to see a very different America. But my hope is a Canadian, very proud Canadian, who loves democracy more than anything, who loves personal freedoms more than anything, who stands up for the marginalized and gives his privilege, or tries at the very least to give his privilege to those who need it. Um, I'm right there with America today. Canada is right there with America today. Canada is right there with our friends. We're right there with our allies. We're right there with the soul of what that country used to be and still can be again. So let me just give you, my American friends, a very happy Canada Day. Hang in there because you are going to be okay. These are rough waters. You are being led by a tyrannical fucking moron con man and all of his criminal pals. You are being governed by the mafia. You are being governed by the mafia from different countries. The worst dictatorships in the world are governing your country, your freedoms. They're dictating your day through an absolute fucking nightmare of a human being. It will end. If I know anything about America, is that Americans always come to the party when it matters the most. And I know you will. So hang in there. From Canada, happy Canada Day to you, my Canadian friends, and our Canadian by proxy American friends who look up at us and go, why can't I live there? You can. you can get on up here and jump in with us. Happy Canada Day to you too.
That's so beautiful. If you want more of that, you go to deanblundell.substack.com. The best Substack out there for this kind of content. It really is. There's no one who handles the
Oh, and
Canadian
by the way,
American.
a Canada Day flash sale
Oh,
going on
you
all
do?
week long, 50% off annual subscriptions. So you get unlimited
Wow.
access to this, including our Q&As with Lev Parnas at the end of the week.
Wow.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. It's just a happy gift. It's me saying,
I'm
come
gonna
on,
I'm gonna
everyone.
I'm gonna mirror that. I'm gonna do that as well. For 50% off for the day, you said
No, for
annual
the whole
subscription
week.
of the whole week. All
Yeah,
right.
I'm only
So it's a 4th of July Canada Day mashup special.
Yes.
50% off our annual subscriptions on deanblundell.substack.com and at narrative.org, NARATIV.org. Just give me until after the next show to update the specials. Thanks for being here, everybody. I'll be back in 8 minutes when we're going to do the Trump tourney tracker with Olga Lautman. So I shall see you then. Great to see you, Dean, and
Good
we'll
to
see
see
you
you
again
too, buddy.
tomorrow.
All
Bye bye.
right, take care.